This happened to me about 4 months ago. Background: me and my fiance went to Colorado for an anniversary getaway where I popped the question and asked her to marry me. We're from Kentucky, so it was going to be a 16 to 17 hour car ride. We get there and it was beautiful and great, and we got engaged and had a really good time. So, come the day we leave, we get on the road at about 12 AM and drove through the night. We're about 2.5 hours away from home in the back roads of Indiana. I must say that the GPS took us some questionable ways. I'm driving the last leg of the trip while my fiance sleeps a little. It's about 4 to 5 AM at this point, and the sun was just starting to show over the horizon. As I drove down a narrow, curvy road, I start to notice that a car had been following me for a while. I got a tad weary as I didn't have my firearm on me and we're in right dead center of Hickville. I thought I was just being paranoid and tried ignoring the car. So, I see an extra curvy road is coming up, and the next thing I know that the car behind me gets right up my bumper and flicks their brights on. Not 30 seconds later, after coming around a curve, I see 4 sets of tyres sitting on the road, kinda like a roadblock. I had no time to stop and didn't plan on it. I ran over the tyres and felt a pretty heavy smack and bump as I did so. Right as I turn the next corner, trying to speed up and get away from the car that's still on my arse, I glance over to see about 5 to 7 people crouching on the side of the road in some bushes. At this point, I know I'm in some type of danger and floor it. I start doing almost 100 miles an hour on this curvy back road. Seeing that I didn't stop and my tyre didn't go flat, the car behind me slowed and eventually went out of sight. My fiance slept through the whole thing, and when we went to the next gas station to fill up, I saw about 5 to 6 nails in all 4 of my tyres and a nice chunk of rubber missing. At this point, my fiance was awake, and the last thing I wanted to do was ruin her engagement trip by telling her what happened, so I never did. I took the car back to the rental office and went on my way. I'm super thankful that the car I rented luckily just had 4 brand new tyres put on before we left because it was a cross-country trip. I still get the chills thinking what would have happened if my tyres went flat that day. When I finished college, I was living in a 1-bedroom townhouse. I met a guy on Plenty of Fish, and at that time, I wasn't exactly smart about my online digital footprint. It's not like I've really changed, but at least now I'm not as ridiculous. Anyways, he seemed like a decent guy. He was really good looking, said he had a good job, nice teeth, I know, don't judge me, and looked like he really cared about his personal health. All things I would typically look for in a guy. I'm not a shallow human, but I like to be presentable, and if I'm with someone, I would like them to care about being presentable in a business environment also. After about a week of chatting online, we agreed to meet. We met at a restaurant downtown which was really far from where I lived. When I got there, I noticed him standing at the door. We sat down to eat, and the evening went great. At the end of the date, we say bye, and I got into my car and began to drive away. I realized right away that he was following me. Because of the distance to my house, I wasn't immediately scared because it's a big city. Maybe he'll just turn off at the freeway. He didn't. My exit was coming up and I decided not to take it. I kept driving. I circled the entire city on the freeway and he stayed right behind me. I was starting to panic a bit, so I decided to go to my friend's house instead of mine, and when I pulled out of the exit, I noticed that he did not. So I had a little bit of a moment to breathe and decided, okay, screw it, I'm just gonna go home. I took the off-ramp back onto the freeway and began going back to my exit. I got home and showered and was getting ready for bed, and I started feeling dumb because, was that really him? Am I overreacting? Do I ask him if he was following me? Just a number of things were racing through my overactive imagination, or so I thought. I decided I was going to message him and just say, I had a good time. Good night. And when I started typing, all of a sudden, a message came through to my phone. It was a picture of my car taken from outside my house. I nearly died. My heart jumped out of my chest. I started shaking. I didn't know what to say, and he texts me and says, I didn't know you lived across the street from me. I've met my neighbours, and not once have I ever met him. There's a huge apartment complex kiddie corner to my townhouse, so maybe that's where he lived, but I'm not sure. I popped up and went to look outside, and there he was, just standing there outside as if he was waiting for me. I opened the door and he asked if he could come in and if I wanted to still hang out. I told him I was exhausted and I'd rather just crash out as it had been a long day. The next morning I woke up to go to work and my windshield had been smashed. My car was keyed and my back 2 tyres were slashed. As I was noticing the damage to my vehicle, the guy comes out of his car with 2 coffees and is like, oh, I thought I'd surprise you with the morning coffee. So again, I am freaked out. I called the cops and reported the damage to my vehicle. This guy offered to drive me and something in my gut was like, do not get in that car. So I called my boss and told them the situation. I explained that I wasn't going to be there until after the police came. All the meantime, this guy just hung out with me the whole time. When the police finally got there, this guy was acting really suspicious. He walked away and was hiding on the other side of his car. I filed the report and the police basically said, I hope you have insurance, and were on their way to leave. They pulled around the corner and all I heard was the siren of cop lights turn on and the cops scream, freeze, put your hands in the air and get down on your knees. I look and the cops have got his gun out, drawn at the guy, and this dude is on the ground being arrested. I spoke with the cop when he got back and he explained that the guy was wanted for stalking, breach of probation, assault with a deadly weapon, fraud, and aggravated sexual assault. I was shook. It took me a couple of days to get over the hypothetical situations that could have happened. About a week later, I was on my way out of the door to go to work, and guess who was sitting in my driveway? We live in Canada, so essentially you're released on conditions until you actually go to jail. I told him I was late for work, but that I'd call him when I was done. I never went to work that day. I went and found a new apartment on another area of the city. I also changed my phone number and hired my friend's husband and his friends to go pack my apartment up and move it to their place for a month, and then move it to my new place because I was so scared this dude would follow them while moving. So yeah, that's my horror story of the first time I used plenty of fish.